Today I'll be reviewing how to change out the main hammer spring in a Sig 225 P6. A lot of these P6s have been imported from Germany and they're notorious for having a very stiff trigger spring and therefore a stiff double action pull. So by changing out the stock spring to one a little lighter, it will help somewhat. First thing you want to do, as with any gun, is make sure that the gun is empty and unloaded. Okay, the first thing you want to do is remove your hand guards from your 225, and you want to use a screwdriver that's square, not your Craftsman, so you don't mar the screws. If you use a screwdriver that fits the screws very well, it won't leave any mark on them. Just set your hand guards and your screws to the side. And here you'll see the mainspring. So lower the hammer. And then right here there's a little piece dovetailed into the back of the frame. If you give that a little bit of a push out, remove it from the back of the gun, then the spring assembly will come out and look just like this. And then go ahead and set your lower to the side. Now the problem here is the compression of the spring itself. If you've ever done a McPherson strut on a car, then you know how difficult it is when you have a spring that's under pressure. Now, ideally, we would have a roll pin punch. This is a roll pin right here that's holding the spring into this end piece, and or a jig or something to compress that while you take the roll pin out. Now, the problem is I don't have those tools, so I'm going to show you how to do it with just using the tools that you have. Now here I have a large set of channel locks. I'm going to take a little bit of duct tape so that I don't screw up this part here. And I'm just going to cover the end to keep from marring that with the channel locks themselves. And open up your channel locks. Brace it on the bottom, and then from here you ought to be able to take the tension off of the spring and fully compress it. Now if you just take you a set of needle nose, and you can back the roll pin out just a little bit, and as you can see, that's a little bit tough to do. Okay, see now there, the roll pin is partially out. And off it goes. Okay, after turning the office upside down looking for the retainer clip, I might recommend laying a towel over it as you take it apart, or do it in a very empty room where you can find the part when it launches itself somewhere else. Anyway, once that cap is off and your roll pin is loose, your spring will come right out. Okay, here we have an assembled P6, and here's the one that we're working on to put back together. Once you have the mainspring roll pin out and the stop comes off, then the spring just slides right off the end. So you take your stock spring, then you replace it. I used the 19-pound spring. The 225 has a design where it doesn't develop quite as much leverage as some later models. So what you want to do is not go too light. Then of course you will have failure to fires, light primer strikes. So what you might want to do is, if you have one of these kits, you start off with a 19-pound spring, and maybe you can work down until you find one that you like with the ammunition that is your preference. So we're going to put this back together. With this piece, we'll go right back in here like that right there. So we take the spring. Now these springs, they just go right back on there the same way they came off. Now this is actually harder than taking it loose. So when you're putting this back together, it's going to be very difficult to get the spring compressed enough to get this retaining piece on there and the roll pin. So that's the challenge that you have before you. Okay. Let me just insert that pin back in. And then just take your needle nose, reach to the side of the roll pin, and bring the roll pin back in till it's evened up. Like that. And there you have it. Now we'll just take our duct tape back off. And there's the piece ready with the 19-pound spring. Now you take your frame. And the key is finding the right place that it's going to engage. You kind of, when you put it in these back of these pistols, you can feel it down here. It'll go right there, and you think you have it right, but it's not. It's towards the back. You can see the guide almost touches the back of the frame in that position. Here's one that's together. See how far out it is right there. So anyway, now all it is a matter of getting the dovetail here into the back of the frame. Now, if you have a real fancy pistol, maybe you're worried about marring anything, but this being a 225 P6, I'm just going to use a screwdriver on it. And then into the dovetail it goes, like that. There it is, cocked, decocked, with a much lighter trigger pull than when it had the 24-pound spring in it. Or, I don't know, I've heard reports on the internet, people have said that, on the forums have said they even ship with a 28-pound spring on the P6s. I don't know. All I know is that it's considerably heavier than my 228. And so, by putting this 19-pound spring on it, it makes the gun feel a whole lot better. Haven't had it out to the range to shoot it yet. See about its reliability, but we'll be doing that here in a little bit if it ever stops snowing. Put your screws back on, make sure your grips are tight. Put your slide back on the gun. It's now a much smoother and lighter trigger pull. And that's the way to change a 225 P6 mainspring without a special jig or anything. And hopefully at least that gives you an idea how it's done.